Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. I have had a little bit of a rough time dealing with the news that we're not going back to school. I miss you guys a lot, and it's been really trying to find the positives in all this, and it hasn't really been easy. I hope you guys are doing okay, because I know this is not what we expected. But I do want to make sure that you know that I'm going to be here until May 29th, or until they tell us to stop teaching digitally. So I will be here giving out assignments, having meetings, recording read-alouds, recording lessons, doing all the same stuff, and just really hoping to stay in touch with you and contact with you. And then just hoping that we can see each other sometime really soon. So I'm going to read chapter 9 in our book. So the Diaper Gang knows. We're splashing around in the water at the little beach at the end of Duval Street. It's the only way to cool off on a hot day, and every day is hot here. I wade up to my waist in a bathing suit that Aunt Minnie found for me. A beaming boy comes running up. "Hey, it's Ira!" Kermit exclaims. "I'm back, fellas," the boy announces like a returning hero. He's got a mop-like head of curly red hair. He looks a little like Orphan Annie without the red dress. "When'd you get in from Miami?" Beans asks. "Last night. Took us forever to get home. That ferry ran aground." "Poppy told me that when the highway's finished, we won't need no ferries," Kermit says. A ferry's a boat that takes you back and forth across the water. "Can't be soon enough for me," Ira agrees. He strips off his shirt and dives into the water. "What were you doing in Miami?" I ask him when he surfaces. He gives his head a shake. Who are you?" "I'm just some cousin from New Jersey," I say before Beans can. Ira says, my little brother needed an operation, so we had to take him to the hospital there." "What's he sick from?" "Dumbness," Porkchop says. "Eggy lit some firecrackers and wouldn't believe me when I told him to throw them," Ira says. He blew off his thumb and his pinky. "How's Eggy doing?" Kermit asks. "Oh, he's got so many of my aunts worrying over him, he can't fart without any one of them jumping," Ira says. "So what'd I miss? Have we had a lot of babies?" "The diaper gang was Ira's idea in the first place," Kermit tells me. "Yep, I'm the brains of this operation," Ira says. "I wouldn't brag about that," I say. "We've been pretty busy," Beans says, "but we're going to need a new wagon soon." "Where are we going to get the dough for a new wagon?" Ira asks. Everyone's quiet, and then Kermit wiggles his eyebrows and says, "The Shadow knows." The boys are always quoting The Shadow. He's a mysterious narrator from a crime radio show. I like the Shadow as much as any other kid, but you'd think that if he knew so much, he'd give some advice to President Roosevelt. Far as I could tell, he needs all the help he can get. A pretty lady with a broad-brimmed hat walks by with a handsome man. "Porkchop, Beans, are you boys having a pleasant summer?" she asks. Beans looks frozen, but Porkchop swallows and mumbles, "Yes, Miss Sugar Apple. See you two in the fall," she says, and then strolls off. "Not if I'm lucky," Beans says. "Is that your teacher?" I ask. Kermit says, "Porkchop and Beans got in big trouble with Miss Sugar Apple." "What'd you do?" I asked. "Nothing," Beans said. "They stole the answer sheet for a test from Miss Sugar Apple's desk," Kermit said. "We didn't steal it," Porkchop says. "We borrowed it." They had to stay after school every day for the last month and write "I will not steal" on the chalkboard 200 times, Kermit says. "Well, I guess you won't steal next time." Beans sneers, "No, next time we won't get caught." After we finish swimming, we have a cut-up. A cut-up is something these comp kids do every chance they get. Each kid brings whatever they can find lying around or hanging on a tree. A sugar apple, a banana, a mango, a pineapple, an alligator pear, a guava, potatoes, even onions. And they take a big bowl and they cut it all up and they season it with an old sour, which is made from key lime sauce, salt, and hot peppers. And then they pass it around with a fork and everyone takes a bite. It is the strangest fruit salad I've ever had, but it's tasty. And it's called a cut-up. "Listen, fellas," Ira says, spearing a piece of potato. "I've been thinking. How about you get us a new wagon?" Beans asks. Ira says, I meant this kid Lester in Miami, I meant about this kid Lester I met in Miami. He told me about TikToking." "What's that?" Porkchop asks. "Well, all you need is a rock and a string," Ira says, lowering his voice in a conspiratorial whisper. "It goes like this." Ira explains that you take a rock and you tie it to a long length of string, long enough to reach across the roof. Then stake out a house and wait until everyone's asleep. You throw the rock over the house so it lands on the opposite side near a window. When you tug on the string, it scrapes the window and it makes a scary sound as if a bony hand is trying to get into the house. The folks inside are scared so bad they scream their heads off and you take off running. And the best part, Ira finishes, no one knows who did it. What do you think, fellas? I like it, Porkchop says. Who should we TikTok first? An evil glint appears in Bean's eyes. Ms. Sugarapple, he says. It's late and I'm lying in bed listening to mosquitoes buzz. The night air is thick with the sweet scent of frangipani. Smokey's curled up into my side, her paws twitching in her sleep like she's dreaming of chasing mice. Archie told me once that what he really sells is dreams. Nobody needs fancy face cream. A lady buys it because she wants to feel young or find a husband or feel prettier than her neighbor, he told me. All I do is sell her that dream, bottled up nice and tidy in a cream, or maybe a new hat or some brushes. But what if she doesn't have a dream, I ask him. Princess, he says, everybody's got a dream. I've almost fallen asleep when a scream shatters the quiet and I know the diaper gang has struck. The conch telegraph kicks in the next morning. When I go outside, the diaper gang boys are sitting on the porch talking excitedly. That was hilarious, pal, Porkchop chortles. She screamed so loud they heard her in Cuba. Jelly comes walking down the lane. You kids hear about the ghost at Miss Sugarapple's place? Baines feigns ignorance. What's that, Jelly? Miss Sugarapple says a ghost was trying to get into her house last night. A ghost? Beans asks. Scared her nearly to death, she said. Gee whiz, Beans says. I sure do hope Miss Sugarapple's okay. She's our favorite teacher. Jelly walks into his tiny house and Beans grins. This is the bee's knees, fellas, he says. Porkchop starts laughing and says in a low, menacing voice, Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The diaper gang knows. Pudding starts crying and I sniff. I don't know about the hearts of men, but I bet there's something evil lurking in that diaper, I say. She's pretty funny. Over the next few days, the diaper gang TikToks the houses of various folks who think they have wronged them, including a preacher, a store clerk who never gave out free gumballs, some man who yelled at them for picking his Spanish limes, and a girl named Lucy who sat in front of Beans in school and wouldn't let him cheat off her test. But I guess spending all night scaring folks is starting to take its toll because when I go down to breakfast on the third day, Beans and Kermit are practically asleep at the table. Late night shadow, I ask, and Beans glares at me. There's a knock on the door and Ira comes tromping in. He's got dark circles under his eyes too. We got babies, he says, and Beans stands up and walks out after him. Kermit and me trailing behind. By early afternoon, everyone's drooping and not one of the boys has any patience left for the crying babies. It's just me, Beans, and Ira. Kermit was only too happy to go home when Aunt Minnie hollered at him for his first nap. I wish I had a rheumatic fever so I could take a nap, Ira says. Puddin' is crying again in the wagon. Beans snaps at me. Oh, just pick him up, why don't you? I'm not in the diaper gang, I say. Who cares, Ira says with a yawn. We're beat. I pick up Puddin'. He nuzzles his sweaty head into the bare skin of my neck and he closes his eyes, his little fist tugging on my hair. I guess this is why they warn you about picking up babies. If he stayed quiet like this, I would never want to put him down. Porkchop comes limping down the lane. When he gets closer, I see that his knees all tore up and raw looking. What happened to you, I ask him. He spits out, too bad. Too bad followed us last night when we went TikToking. Porkchop's tripped over him, Ira said. How could you trip over him, I asked. I didn't see him, it was dark, Porkchop says. Boy, I hate that kid. Well, you didn't have to cry so loud, Ira says, looking annoyed. The shadow's supposed to be mysterious. You almost got us caught. You see my leg? It hurt, Porkchop says. The next afternoon, we're sitting around having a cut-up when Kermit comes hurtling down the lane, waving a newspaper. Fellas, we made it to the newspaper. The headline shouts, Key West cursed by weeping ghost. Weeping ghost, Porkchop says. What are they talking about? Read it, Beans orders, and Ira obliges. Is a mysterious ghost haunting the lanes of our fair town? Residents have reported strange goings-on of late. Mrs. Josephine Higgs of Pekin Lane is the most recent recipient of a ghostly visitation. I heard her knocking at the window, Miss Higgs says. I think she was trying to communicate with me. I wasn't trying to communicate with you, Porkchop says in an outraged voice. I was trying to scare you. Who is she anyway, I ask. My first grade teacher, he says with a scowl. Boy, you sure do hold a grudge, I say. Keep reading, Ira continues. Miss Higgs believes the spirit may be the widow of a sailor who died at sea. I never heard such a sad sound as her weeping. She said she's just crying her heart out, the poor thing, Miss Higgs said. I think she's talking about Porkchop crying because he hurt his knee. Ira finishes and looks up. Everyone's quiet. Porkchop has turned beet red. Maybe you'll get your own radio show, I say to Porkchop, just like the Shadow. Really, he asks. Sure, I say. You could call it The Cry Baby.